Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I don't know if this is working or not. Hold on a second.
You gotta sit down. You gotta chill on this toy.
I don't know if I did this right.
How long's karate supposed to be for?
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. All my days, I've been held in your hand. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, for I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am there, oh, I will sing of the goodness.
Hey. Stacey. But I can't. Mary's not on, so I don't know if I didn't do something right. No.
Did you text it to her?
Yes, I think I did. Oh, here she is. Morning.
Morning, Chris.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Except for the dog.
She's trying to get that dog.
I gotta figure out how to get this.
Get it. No.
It's not possible. Struggling with having to plug this in. It don't want to work right. This one's not wanting to go live. All right, everybody. Sorry, having some technical issues. Good morning. I don't know who all's on here. I'm on the iPad, so I don't know.
Jackie is here.
Jackie, good morning, Jackie. Okay. All right. Well, it is Monday.
It is Monday.
Monday, fun day. We are in 1 Samuel chapter 21 through 24 today. And we're reading about Saul and David. This has been really cool. My name's Chris. That is Miss Mary.
Yes, I'm here.
And
Hello.
we are doing a Bible recap. My wife will be here at some point. We're trying to get the dogs figured out. Teresa, good morning, Teresa.
Morning, Teresa.
So, what do you have you and Stacey talked as far as which one you're reading? And
No, I can start it off. I can do the first. How
Okay.
many is it? What are we?
3.
Yeah, I can do the first one.
1, 2, 3. Actually, there's 4 of them. It's 21 through 24.
And then I'll do the recap like I always do. So I'll do the first one and the recap, and then
Okay.
you and
Okay.
Stacey can split
Okay. That sounds
the remainder.
good. You want to pray?
Sure. All right. Dear
Yes,
Heavenly
ma'am.
Father, Lord, just thank you for another day. Father, thank you for another opportunity to gather and to learn more about you. Father, I ask that you would be with all of us during this time and throughout this day, Lord. And I ask that you would just reveal yourself to us. It is in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Want to get started?
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right. She's making her way over here. So, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. This is 1 Samuel chapter 21. Also that quick. It says David and the Holy Bread. Oh, this is that chapter when David was tripping. Okie dokie. Then David came to Nob to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech came to meet David, trembling, and said to him, "Why are you alone? And no one is with you." Oh, by the way, if you missed yesterday, David is basically on the run now from Saul. So he left the palace, all that stuff, and he's on the run. It says, "Why are you alone with no one?" And David said to Ahimelech the priest, "The king has charged me with the matter and said to me, 'Let no one know anything of the matter about which I send you and with which I have charged you.'" David is lying. "I have made an appointment with the young man for such and such a place. Now then, what? Hold on. My thing's about to fall. Okay. Let no one anything, blah, blah, blah. I made an appointment with the young men for such and such a place. Now then, what do you have on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread or whatever is here." And the priest answered David, "I have no common bread on hand, but there is holy bread. If the young men have kept themselves from women." And David answered the priest, "Truly, women have been kept from us as always when I go on an expedition. The vessels of the young men are holy, even when it is an ordinary journey. How much more today will their vessels be holy?" So the priest gave him the holy bread, for there was no bread there, but the bread of the presence, which is removed from before the Lord, to be replaced by hot bread on the day it is taken away. Now, certain men of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord. His name was Doeg, Doeg, the Edomite, the chef of Saul's herdsmen. Then David said to Ahimelech, then then have you not here a spear or a sword at hand? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business requires haste. Once again, David's lying. And the priest said, the sword of Goliath, the Philistine, whom you struck down in the valley of Elah, behold, it is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you will take that, take it, for there is none but that here. And David said, there is none like that. Give it to me. David flees to Gath. Okay, can we just like pay attention to how much David is lying? Okay, can we just pay attention to how much he
What
is
is he lying about?
He's lying.
Recap real quick.
He's lying about because the priest asked him like, "Why are you here by yourself?" And David's like, "Listen, the king sent me out here real quick. I had to do some stuff. Can't really tell you what I'm doing, but I'm like, he had me leave really fast. So can you give me some food and a sword by chance?" Which we all know he's on the run from Saul, so he's lying.
Right.
And yet God is still with him. No,
I just wanted Mary's quick little version real quick.
Yeah. Just note that he's lying and God is still with him. All right. David flees to Gath. And David rose and fled that day from Saul and went to Achish, the king of Gath. And the servants of Achish said to him, is not this David the king of the land? Did they not sing to one another of hymns and dances? Saul struck down his 1,000 and David his 10,000. And David took these words to heart and was much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their hands and made marks on the doors of the gate and let his spittle run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, behold, you see this man is mad. Why then have you brought him to me? Do I lack madmen? Do I lack madmen that you have brought this fellow to behave as a madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?
Man, he just kind of lost it there for a bit, didn't he?
He's lying. David's on a lion tour right now.
On a lion tour.
He is. He's on a lion tour right now. That's everywhere he goes, he's about to lie. Everywhere.
That's funny.
Everywhere he goes.
But it's funny because it's like, why? Like, what is the purpose? Like, I mean, God has taken care of you, done all this so far, and then why do you feel like you have to lie? It's just it's how we do, though.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Chris, but don't we do that? Like, yeah, I know I do.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I'm saying. It's like, how do we quickly just switch like that? Just all of a sudden think, uh-oh, I got to protect myself. Uh-oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. Instead of just letting God do what he does. Mm-hmm. But it's our flesh. Obviously, you can get scared.
Yeah.
All right, David at the cave of Adullam. David departed from there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. How would you say that? Adullam. And when his brothers and all his father's house heard it, they went down there to him. And everyone who was in distress, and everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was bitter in soul, gathered to him, and he became commander over them. And there and there were with him about 400 men. And David went from there to Mizpah of Moab, and he said to the king of Moab, "Please let my father and my mother stay with you till I know what God will do for me." And he left them with the king of Moab, and they stayed with him all the time that David was in the stronghold. Then the prophet Gad said to David, "Do not remain in the stronghold. Depart and go to the land of Judah." So David departed and went into the forest of Hereth. So the prophet Gad said to David, "Don't remain in the stronghold." Now Saul heard that David was discovered, and the men who were with him. Saul was sitting at Gibeah under the tamarisk tree on the height with the spear in his hand, and all the servants were standing about him. And Saul said to his servants who stood about him, "Hear now, people of Benjamin, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards? Will he make you all commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds, that all of you have conspired against me? No one discloses to me when my son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse. None of you is sorry for me or discloses to me that my son has stirred up my servant against me, to lie in wait as at this day." Then answered Doeg, however you say it, the Edomite, who stood by the servants of Saul, "I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob, to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, and he inquired of the Lord for him and gave him provision and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine." Then the king sent to summon Ahimelech, if I'm saying that right, the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house, the priests who were not at Nob, and all of them came to the king. And Saul said, "Hear now, son of Ahitub." And he answered, "Here I am, my lord." And Saul said to him, "Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse? Is that in that you have given him bread and a sword, and have inquired of God for him, so that he has risen against me to lie in wait as at this day?" Then Ahimelech, what?
Take it down.
They're tearing the bed up.
Okay, take it. So that he has risen against me to lie in wait at this day. Then Ahimelech answered the king, "And who among all your servants is so faithful as David, who is the king's son-in-law and captain over your bodyguard and honored in your house? Is today the first time that I have inquired of God for him? No, let not the king impute anything to his servant."
Hey!
Sorry. Let not the king impute anything to his servant, or to all the house of my father. Sorry, or to all the house of my father. For your servant has known nothing of all this, much or little. And the king said, You shall surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house." And the king said to the guard who stood about him, "Turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because their hand also is with David." And they knew that he fled and did not disclose it to me. But the servants of the king would not put out their hand to strike the priest of the Lord. Then the king said to Doeg, "You turn and strike the priest," and Doeg the Edomite turned and strike down the priest. And he killed on that day 85 persons who wore the linen ephod. And Nob, the city of the priest, he put to the sword, both man and women, child and infant, ox, donkey, and sheep he put to the sword. But one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar told David that Saul had killed the priest of the Lord. And David said to Abiathar, "I knew on that day when Doeg the Edomite was there that he would surely tell Saul, I have occasioned the death of all the persons of your father's house. Stay with me, do not be afraid, for he who seeks my life seeks your life. With me you shall be in safekeeping. So Saul killed all the priests, I guess, or had somebody kill him.
Yep.
Like
But
kids, donkeys.
you see that he told, what did it say? He had said it once, and the servants of the king would not put their hands and strike the priest. So then he looked
Right.
at Doag, however you say his name. He looked at him and he was like, kill him. And he did it. But the other
Right.
people wouldn't do it.
Right.
Because they knew it was wrong.
Right.
But I do like how the priest, because the priest could have said, David came and told me that he was on some mission for you. He could have said that, but he didn't. He was like, basically, David was your right hand man, so why are you mad at me?
Right. Yeah, and I think they, because of them being who they are, they knew without David even saying anything that Saul lost his mind. Yeah, they knew something wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, baby, you're up. 20. I just read 22, right? So 23. All right. Roxy.
All right. Excuse me. David saves the city of Keilah. Now they told David, behold, I got to put my arm here. Now they told David, behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah. Play that. Let me see if I'm saying that right. I just want to know. Just hit play.
Where did you see play?
Up there.
Right here?
Mm-hmm. Play again.
Chapter 23. Now they told David, behold, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah and are robbing the
Keilah. All right. Therefore David inquired of the Lord, shall I go and attack the Philistines, these Philistines? And the Lord said to David, go and attack the Philistines and save Keilah. But David's men said to him, behold, we are afraid here in Judah. How much more then if we go down to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines? Then David inquired of the Lord again, and the Lord answered him, arise, go down to Keilah, for I will give the Philistines into your hand. And David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines and brought away their livestock and struck them with a great blow. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. When Abiathar, the son of Ahimelech, had fled to David to Keilah, he had come down with an ephod in his hand. Now it was told Saul that David had come to Keilah, and Saul said, God has given him into my hand, for he has shut himself in by entering a town that has gates and bars. And Saul summoned all the people to go to war, to go down to Keilah, to besiege David and his men. David knew that Saul was plotting harm against him. And he said to Abiathar, the priest, bring the ephod here. Then David said, O Lord, the God of Israel, your servant has surely heard that Saul seeks to come to Keilah to destroy the city on my account. Will the men of Keilah surrender me into his hand? Will Saul come down as your servant has heard? O Lord, the God of Israel, please tell your servant. And the Lord said, he will come down. Then David said, will the men of Keilah surrender me and my men into the hand of Saul? And the Lord said, they will surrender you. Then David and his men, who were about 600, arose and departed from Keilah, and they went wherever they could go. When Saul was told that David had escaped from Keilah, he gave up the expedition. And David remained in the strongholds in the wilderness, in the hill country of the wilderness of Ziph. And Saul sought him every day, but God did not give him into his hand. David saw that Saul had come out to seek his life. David was in the wilderness of Ziph at Horesh, and Jonathan, Saul's son, rose and went to David at Horesh and strengthened his hand in God. And he said to him, do not fear, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you. Saul my father also knows this. And the two of them made a covenant before the Lord. David remained at Horish, and Jonathan went home. Then the Ziphites went up to Saul at Gibeah, saying, is not David hiding among us in the strongholds at Horish, on the hill of Hakilah, which is south of Jeshimon? Now come down, O king, according to all your heart's desire, to come down, and our part shall be to surrender him into the king's hand. And Saul said, may you be blessed by the Lord, for you have had compassion on me. Go, make yet more sure. Now, know and see the place where his foot is, and who has seen him there. And for it is told me that he is very cunning. See, therefore, and take note of all the lurking places where he hides, and come back to me with sure information. Then I will go with you, and if he is in the land, I will search him out among all the thousands of Judah. And they arose and went to Ziph ahead of Saul. Now David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the Arabah to the south of Jeshimon. And Saul and his men went to seek him. And David was told. So he went down to the rock and lived in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard that, he pursued after David in the wilderness of Maon. Saul went on one side of the mountain, and David and his men on the other side of the mountain. And David was hurrying to get away from Saul. As Saul and his men were closing in on David and his men to capture them, a messenger came to Saul, saying, hurry and come, for the Philistines have made a raid against the land. So Saul returned from pursuing after David and went against the Philistines. Therefore, that place was called the Rock of Escape. And David went up from there and lived in the strongholds of En-Gedi.
What are you
I think
laughing about?
it's crazy how Saul keeps saying, if you help me, the Lord's gonna bless you. God's gonna bless you if you help me. I think that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. He's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that this is even happening, because really it's almost like the only reason David is fleeing is to protect Saul, because he can kill him. Do you know what I'm saying? He's like, the only reason I'm leaving is because I'm not allowed to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm protecting us both, because I could have had you already.
Yeah, and I believe that David really cared about Saul. Like, he truly cared about him, and he didn't really want to kill him.
Yeah.
Because he loved him so much and he respected him that much.
Yeah, he respected God for sure, because he's like, you're not going out until God says you're going out. And I'm not going to be the one to do it unless he says so.
So, which, begs the question like, why did God let that go on for so long? What's he teaching David? And there's got to be a reason for the people to see what's going on. Obviously he has a reason for all of it, because he could have had David kill Saul, or he could have just taken Saul out himself anytime he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So, but he kept letting this go on for a really long time. So you got to think there's got to be a reason. He's teaching David things. He's teaching, I don't know.
I think it's about part of it, maybe not the whole thing, but part of it is about God teaching David, trust me in this.
Yeah. And I think he's building David's reputation through it all, because had he just went and killed Saul, it could have hurt his reputation, versus people over time seeing what Saul keeps doing to try to get to David, and they're just like, yeah, he's losing his mind. And even the people that, like the priests, were like, no, we're not going to do what you're telling us to do. So people are seeing it, and him not being obedient to God, but doing what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was with them, and she's the zoomies, and you can't stop it.
just reach over. All right, chapter 24.
River.
You want me to read that or you want to read it?
They don't.
Is it the last one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Mary's
You want to
gonna
do recap?
She's going to do the recap.
Okay, go for it.
David spares Saul's life. Okay, reach over. When Saul returned from following the Philistines, he was told, "Behold, David is in the wilderness of Engedi." And then Saul took 3,000.
What am I supposed to do?
Be careful.
Even I'm in there, she'll mess with me and bite me all over my place. I can't go in there.
Pick one and take it outside.
Just take them both out, actually. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Thank you.
Sorry, bud. All right. When Saul returned from the following Philistines, he was told, "Behold, David is in the wilderness of En-gedi." And Saul took 3,000 chosen men out of all Israel and went to seek David and his men in front of the wild goats rocks. Hold on. Sorry, we're having a dog moment. A little loud.
It's over.
Okay, sorry. And he came to the sheepfolds by the way where there was a cave. And Saul went in to relieve himself. I've always thought this was pretty funny. Now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. And the men of David said to him, "Here is the day of which the Lord said to you, Behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you." And then David arose and stealthily cut off a corner of Saul's robe. And afterward, David's heart struck him because he had cut off a corner of Saul's robe. He said to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my Lord. The Lord's anointed, to put out my hand against him, seeing he is the Lord's anointed." So David pursued his men with these words and did not permit them to attack.
Persuaded.
Oh, sorry, thank you. So David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. And Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way. Afterward, David also arose and went out of the cave and called after Saul, "My lord the king." And when Saul looked behind him, David bowed his face to the earth and paid homage. And David said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the words of men who say, Behold, David seeks your harm? Behold, this day your eyes have seen how the Lord gave you today into my hand in the cave. And some told me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not put out my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. See, my father, see the corner of your robe in my hand. For by that fact that I cut off the corner of your robe and did not kill you, you may know and see that there is no wrong or treason in my hands. I have not sinned against you, though you hunt my life to take it. May the Lord judge between you and me and you. May the Lord avenge me against you, but my hand shall not be against you. As the proverb of the ancient says, out of the wicked comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you. And whom has the king of Israel come out? After whom has the king of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After a dead dog? After a flea? May the Lord therefore be judge and give sentence between me and you, and see to it, and plead my cause and deliver me from your hand. As soon as David had finished speaking the words to Saul, Saul said, Is this your voice, my son David? And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. He said to David, You are more righteous than I, for you have repaid me good, whereas I have repaid you evil. And you have declared this day how you have dealt with me well with me, in that you did not kill me when the Lord put me into your hands. For if a man finds an enemy, will he let him go away safe? So may the Lord reward you for good for what you have done to me this day. And now behold, I know that you shall surely be king. That's the first time he's admitted that. And that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in your hand. Swear to me, therefore, by the Lord, that you will not cut off my offspring after me, and that you will not destroy my name out of my father's house. And David swore to Saul. Then Saul went home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold. I would say this is why this has been going on.
What do you mean?
Like when I asked the question a while ago, like why has God let all this go on? Like in this moment, kind of see like what God has done and how He's kind of brought David to a place, where Saul recognizes like he's wrong and what he's done, his obsession after David, and how wrong he is, and then he admits, yeah, you should be, you're the rightful next king. Like you just see all of it switch right here, at least for a moment. So I think it's just that as what God was doing, and other people had to have seen that and heard what was going on. So I think what that did was give David the credibility and the favor, for people to see that he could have killed Saul and he didn't. Anyway. Because honestly, like most of us probably would have killed him, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm tired of you chasing, so I'm taking you out.
But David basically said to Saul, where is it at? In verse 14, after whom has the king of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After a dead dog, after a flea. David's basically like, I'm nobody. Like, right. Compared to you, I'm nobody. So why do you keep coming after me? I never noticed that before until now. Yeah, man.
Just super humble, like.
Yeah.
It's kind of that calm response to petty behavior that just puts it all in check in one sentence. It's like, when I think of, oh gosh, I just thought of, the movie The Help, when everything just is put in perspective when what's her name says, aren't you tired? Like there's you just get wrapped up in all this anger and this rage and this forceful controlling behavior that it becomes the focus. And then somebody just goes, aren't you tired? Like, and everybody, including the person who's crazy, is like, who have I become? Like, why am I doing, like, really, what is the point of all this? And it's like, for him to say that, when you pulled that out, for me, it was like, that is probably one of those moments for everybody that's like, where did you go? What happened to your mind, your life? Like, we're all wrapped up in this now. It's affecting everybody. And for what?
Yeah.
For what?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember where everything took a turn for Saul, but I don't remember. Because that wasn't who he was at first.
Right.
And then things changed. I
mean, that moment that his son, you're gonna have to shut the door because I don't want more flies in here. That moment when his son when he was like, oh, like David must be relieving himself or whatever for 2 days when he was supposed to be showing up at the feast or whatever it was.
Said he was with his family.
And then he said, oh, he asked if he could go. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
Well,
He's not here.
I read when I was reading and doing word about that, it said that the first day that he didn't say anything, and the reason is that in that time, like if you had done anything that was unclean, you were allowed to miss a day.
Mhm.
So that's why he didn't say anything. But when he missed the second day, that's
'Cause
when
he's-
Saul tripped
Yeah,
out.
because he thought that. He goes, oh, he must have done something. He must have been unclean.
Right.
Something must have happened. He just can't
Right.
be here today. But day 2,
Right.
now he's got a head start on getting away from him. He's like, not only is he gone, but he's been gone.
Yeah.
And that's when the rage flipped, I think.
Well,
It said
he had
something
been-
in that moment about how
yeah.
he became enraged or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah, Teresa, I think you may be right.
She said, it seems like the first turn really came when he didn't kill the Amalekites. He tore Samuel's robe, then later David took part of Saul's robe.
Mm-hmm. But it was for 2 different reasons, right, Teresa? When Saul tore Samuel's robe, I believe it was because he didn't want him to leave. Because if I remember correctly, it was when Samuel was walking away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he didn't want him to leave. Yeah, but I never put that together though, Teresa. That is true. Saul did tear Samuel's robe, and then David tore Saul's. Yeah, that's when he built a monument for himself. Yeah, for sure. I have never felt bad for Saul until this moment because I don't think I ever realized that from the beginning, like he wasn't like that from the beginning. I really do believe that Saul had high hopes that he was going to be a good king and that he was going to try to do everything, that the Lord said. But when that ego took over, like everything turned. And I believe we see that a lot, especially when it comes to ministry. People have good intentions in the beginning. Well, we hope. I don't know. But we hope that they have good intentions in the beginning, and then things take a turn. And that's when you start to hear about all the stuff and the fall and those kind of things. So,
I wish that there would be. I think there should be. What is the deal with these dogs?
I'm trying to get the bed full. So that's they're moving the cage.
I really wish that for especially ministers, like literally just on staff, it would be worth it to have 1 or 2 people, maybe 2 people, both part-time, that partake in just accountability, just weekly redirection, check-in, confidential. Like you have to see a thing. And where my friend goes in Oregon, everybody on staff, I want to say has to. I don't think anybody would not want to because of the culture there, but they see a therapist and they see a spiritual director. And they literally cover that for everyone to see a spiritual director like so many times a year, which I think is not only brilliant, but should be the bare what should be the bare minimum, because who is, it's men. It's just men. And like when you said ego, like there's no way that's not going to come up at some point.
Of course.
And you're affecting, it's kind of like also teachers. It's like if you are in check, if you are in even just once a month, like something where somebody is asking the hard questions, something where somebody is going, let me see your planner, let me see your phone, let me see your, like, just complete, like, where things are going to get caught beforehand and you're going to be able to go. And also you have to take a sabbatical, and it's not once you have run yourself into the ground, like, not like that, not like, I saw our pastor had posted something a while back about the daughter was asking the dad, can we go on a date because we were out of town and I miss you. And anyway, she said sabbatical can't come soon enough. And I just thought it's sad that it has to feel that way for a pastor, like it should be that there's a rhythm that you're accountable to.
Yeah.
And beyond that, regardless how big things grow, regardless what you might miss out on, you can't do more than this, period. Like, we are not doing overtime anymore. So do your job in this amount of hours and nothing more. And it's really hard when there's not like those set parameters to stop. It's hard for him to stop. It's hard for me to stop. Like if there's not set parameters, but when you're really in charge of people's lives, like children and pastors, like over congregations and stuff, it just, how do we keep good men from turning into crazy Sauls,
Yeah.
I don't know. If I ever had a church, I would model it after that one in Oregon, because it just seems like their previous pastor is the one who wrote The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. Like, they have the mindset of, we are sitting in the presence of God first and foremost, period. From the leaders to the down to the bottom. We don't need another program. We don't need another event. We don't need another member. We need to be with God first and foremost. And if that's not happening, nothing else is happening. And just where, like, you see, like a pastor, there's all this support, there's all these men, there's a ton of people around you, probably some wisdom there, but nobody, he's under no one's authority, he's under no one's accountability, he's under no counsel whatsoever.
Well, are you talking about Saul? Is
Yeah,
that
like nobody is regularly
checking in,
helping him.
Yeah. Well, first, because he's supposed to kind of be like the judge, right? And the judges were supposed to always check in with God. But he denied God, and he also, when Samuel was alive, he wasn't listening to Samuel. Samuel would tell him things, he wouldn't listen. Like with the sacrifice, for instance, Samuel was like, "I'll be there," and he didn't listen. So yeah, he kind of just veered off and started, doing his own thing.
I mean, even the best of men, sometimes you're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you doing? Why are you doing all that? Why are you doing too much?
One of the things that I said to God was, God, if you see me like down the line turning away from you, I don't want any of it. Like, if I'm gonna turn my back at any point on you, I don't want it. Like, if it's better for me
Yeah.
to go back into the classroom, like, I'll do that, because it is a fear, I'm gonna say that, of mine to turn my back on God, because we've come too far at this point. And like, for me to turn away, I know I can't make it. Like, I know for a fact I cannot make it without God.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
want to get to the point where I think that I can at all.
Yeah. Because that's a hard turn. I
Yeah.
feel you. Like, it's like I've been corrected too many times. If I were to have to be corrected at this point, I must really be out of line, and that's not good.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And the thing, I mean, all that's so right, so true. The thing, though, that the enemy does so well is that, like, things like if you're on staff at a church or whatever, and things are going good and you're growing and people are coming, it's the enemy's so good at getting you to justify things, getting you to overlook things that shouldn't be overlooked, getting you to, there's just that, and a lot of that comes with ego, it comes with power, and sometimes it's not even that, it's just the lack of, like what you're saying, there's a lack of accountability, and so you just are so caught up in a moment, or in a momentum
Yeah.
of things going, that you just all of a sudden, your quiet time becomes your sermon prep.
Yes.
Your all those things that got you to where you were have suddenly
taken over your personal walk.
Yeah, and you're just, because I'm doing ministry and I'm doing this and I'm preparing, so it just is, it's not generally a sudden thing, it's just this gradual thing that the enemy comes in and begins, and then all of a sudden you're in this, and in your mind, because things are growing and things are moving forward, and I mean, you just kind of like, yeah, it's all good, and then all of a sudden, a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
Like you begin to find yourself in places and around the wrong people and making wrong decisions and bad decisions. Just you're just like, what have I got into? And then you're trying to figure out, how do I get out of all that? Like, it's just, the enemy is so good at what he does.
And if you don't have that accountability way in the front,
Right.
then everybody around you is caught up in it too.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to be disconnected. They don't want to not be in this flow with you. They want the same thing you want. Like, we all caught up in the momentum. We all caught up in this. And I want to be connected to you, because you are clearly having favor, having, whatever, where you going, I want to go with you, instead of like just somebody's job just being like, no, keep everybody grounded. Just keep the man grounded. That's all we need you to do, is keep him grounded. Check his phone, check his money, check his words, check his emails, what's coming through. See if you see, just a checks and balances that says, no, you leading everybody. You don't get to have a private, like, something that nobody sees. There's none of that for you.
Right.
That's part of the responsibility. Everything that you say, do, what you spend money on, what's coming through, like, you don't get to just delete an email questioning something about you, like we're going to talk about, I just think, man, anyway, I'll shut up.
All right, let's do the recap. As a fugitive, David stops in Nob because he needs food and weapons. Ahimelech the priest seems suspicious, but David lies to protect his own life. This is less like Rahab's lie to protect spies and more like Abraham's lie that Sarah was his sister. It's about saving himself, not others. And it suggests he doesn't believe God's promise to make him king. He breaks another law by eating the holy bread, which is only for priests. Ahimelech makes a concession here: people over process. And it's hard to know how to feel about it at this time. However, Jesus refers to this rule bending as a reminder that inherent in the law is the spirit of the law, which is God's values, which is that God's value, which is that God values mercy over, and that's Matthew 12, 1 through 8. Doeg the Edomite is there too, probably as a prisoner of war. He watches closely, maybe thinking any information he gains can serve as his ticket to freedom. He sees David take Goliath's sword and flee to enemy territory, Phillyville, to escape Saul. David meets Achish, lord of the city of Gath, who recognizes him. David may have wanted to offer himself as a mercenary, but Gath locals are suspicious of him, so he acts insane and flees back to Judah. He and his family live in a cave. Their lives may be at stake too because of him. He assembles a ragtag bunch of outcast followers, 400 men in distress, in debt, bitter, and discontent. They head east to Moab across the Jordan, and David drops his parents off. They're told they're old and unfit for life on the land. Moabites and Israelites are enemies, but David's great grandmother Ruth was a Moabite. So he has roots in the land. Also, he and the Moabites now share a common enemy, Saul. He heads back west across the Jordan and stays at a stronghold in the desert until a prophet warns him to leave and he moves to a forest. Saul gets suspicious that all his servants and troops have betrayed him. So Doeg the Edomite seizes the opportunity to prove he's not a traitor and spills the beans. Saul summons Ahimelech, the priest from Moab, and accuses him. But he pleads innocent and ignorant. Still, Saul orders Doeg to kill them all, and 85 priests die. Saul's army kills everyone in Nob too, including animals. But Ahimelech's son Abiathar escapes and fills David in. David pleads loyalty to him, and Abiathar becomes his priest for life. Meanwhile, in Keilah, in Judah is attacked by the Phillies. So David consults with God, who promises to grant victory. Saul gets word of David's whereabouts and tries to chase him, but God gives David the inside scoop, so Saul can't find them. Next, David and his crew go to the wilderness in Ziph, and Jonathan shows up and acknowledges that both he and his father know David is Israel's next king. Meanwhile, some people in Ziph tip Saul off that David is there. Saul heads that way. But as soon as David is within sight, Saul gets word that the Phillies have attacked, and he has to rush back to war, foiled again. You'll never get what God won't give you. You'll never get what God won't give you. Next, David moves to the oasis called En Engedi. When Saul comes to find him, he brings 3,000 men. When David and his guys are in a cave, Saul comes to relieve himself. David's men quote God's promise as a reason to take action. But we don't actually see that God said these things to David. So it's possible they're inventing promises or misapplying something they've heard. Because they also said to David, hold on, y'all. I'm gonna read it for you. I don't know if y'all caught this, but I was intending to go back and then I forgot. They told David Here's what the Lord says to you: Behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it seems good to you. So they're telling him, what seems good to you, you do it. And I don't think that's what God said. David wisely resists their words. His trust in God enables him to wait well. David cuts off part of Saul's robe, which lets him prove his intentions to Saul. David has no faith in the king, but he shows respect for the king and faith in God all at once. He trusts God's sovereignty over even the length of this wicked ruler's reign. He knows he knows it will come to an end in God's perfect timing. Today is God's shot. God has incredible time. From a surprise attack by the Philistines that pull Saul's away at the last minute. So, two, Saul's need to relieve himself just as he approaches the very cave where David is hiding. Everything we saw today was so perfectly timed that it almost read like choreography. God invites us into this dance with him in which he guides his kids, always making a way to fulfill his plans no matter what attacks the enemy has in mind. He leads us so well, and he's where the joy is. Oh, sorry, D, I didn't see you. Hold on. Act like I didn't say that. Act like I didn't say that. I didn't know you was right there. He leads us so well, and he's
Where
Good job, Bob.
I mean, my heart moment in that is that he trusts God's sovereignty over even the length of this wicked ruler's reign. And then before that, a couple of lines before that, it says, his trust in God enables him to wait well.
Mm-hmm.
That line right there is just a comfort to my heart. Like the in between, there's so many things in our life right now that feels in between, not just the move, but our kids' education and what my purpose looks like, how my day-to-day work looks, and our living space. Like so many pieces for a mom and a wife that is like a lot of not your identity, but your grounding, your the pillars of your life, just kind of being like, okay, we're just gonna move this over here, move this one over here, hold that, we're gonna move that over there. And that's what it feels like right now. And just I think you have this man who he is the king, he is anointed, he has the Spirit of God on him. And yet, what does he say? He says he is both he has no faith in the king, but he shows respect for the king and faith in God all at once. It's holding both. It's holding the pain and the joy, that joy and pain, sunshine and rain. It's holding both. It's going, I've got hope and I also have grief. I've got despair and I have both. And just holding both and going, man, it is the trust in God that helps us to wait well, which we're all waiting on something. It's the next vision, the next level, the next season, the next whatever, and just realizing, like a pastor, just like anybody that needs accountability, going, this is it. This right here, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. So how are you going to show up right here? Whatever it is that you think is the next, it's not guaranteed. So how are you going to show up right here and right now, respecting the space that you're in, respecting the season that you're in, as well as just trusting God trusting his sovereignty over everything, and knowing this season will end. This will come to an end in God's perfect timing. He leads us so well. I just love all of that. That was good for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like with Chris earlier. All of y'all. Yes, ma'am. Thought when Chris said it makes you wonder why. Like why all this? Why can't can we just have transfer of authority and be this? But you know what? Whenever we start questioning God, it's those places where we go, you know what? It's none of my business, or you would have made it my business.
Yeah.
I know what you were accomplishing, but I know I see that God's sovereignty, that God's authority, the way David surrendered to that, the way he didn't resist it, because he could have been like, why are we doing this? Like, am I not? But and rightfully he could have been like, am I not the one? Because you said I was the one. So when do I act like it? When do we?
Yeah.
When does the atmosphere confirm that which you said?
And I think tomorrow we're reading some Psalms. I think that's tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And in that we start to get more of David's thoughts, like during this time of him being on the run, by reading those Psalms. I just and I don't know the word that I want to use, but it's just amazing how even when David makes a mistake, like I said earlier, he was on his lying tour. Even in that, God is still with him. God never leaves his side. Like, God is still right there through it all. Even in David's doubts, even in his lies, even, whatever David does, God is still right there with him and never leaves
on his lion tour.
Never leaves him. It's amazing. You have to do a lot in order for God to be like, okay, enough is enough. He has a lot more patience than us. Cause
yes.
Yeah.
What you see with David that I think always helps me view God and go, okay, oh yeah, he's not like me. Mm-hmm. He's not like us. His value of our devotion, of David's devotion to God, far outweighed the value of his sin. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because the things that David did, I'd be like, that is bad. That is bad. Like you bad. Manipulation, dishonesty, things that like we are like, that is like, don't manipulate me. Don't be dishonest. Don't lie. Don't make a whole plan for your selfish pleasures. Like, don't do these things, but all I can come up with is that David's devotion and love for God, that his dancing naked in the streets and worshiping God was way more important to him than him skipping out on war and killing people. Do you know what? Like, it's just like, there's no other way to see it. Like, he just love the way you care and love for me is way more weighty to me. It's way more valuable to me than all the things that you've done wrong.
Yeah.
And we don't do that to people. We should be more, give more value, but we are like, our pastor preached on like cancel culture yesterday. And he was saying, we take a person's worst moment and then wipe them out. Like just, woo, everything else they did don't matter. Everything, And I'm like, we really do. We really do. Because the first time I realized what David did, I was like, why? No, he is not a man after your own heart. Like, we are mistaken. Are we talking about the same person? Like, I really magnify what he did.
Yeah.
So that is bad. He's done. And that's not God. That's just not the way God sees it. Okay, you guys come in with your hearts. Chris has got to take these boys to.
I'm excited about seeing. I'm excited about seeing Miss Mary. Look at snow play today. Is forgetting all my karate techniques and my extraordinary love. Is she on the win because I haven't seen them in like a year. I'm excited about going to basketball camp, learning new skills, getting better, and like at snow plays, being mad if I can't do something. And what's the last one?
Love.
I'm gonna add something new. By the end of this week, I'm gonna be better.
Okay. He said,
That's my extraordinary love.
Right there. I'm gonna add something new. By the end of this week, you will be better by the end of this week. So showing your basketball skills some extraordinary love. What are you excited about today, Miss Mary?
Well, this is always my favorite.
Amen.
No play today is excited. I'm excited. Anxiety. And love is my dad because it's his birthday.
Yay! Happy birthday, Pops.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna read what Teresa said, but I'm gonna let these boys go because I gotta get to camp. Bring in your hearts, guys. Demarion, you want to be in this?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Chris. Chris.
3, 2, 1.
He's
where the joy is. Have a good day at camp.
She said, have a good day at camp. I just wanted to share, Teresa said, getting kind of tired of your broken promises. And when I finally learned to wait well, God totally blew my mind and exceeded every expectation. That part right there, Teresa. And Teresa, I love what you said, Jackie, about. Go ahead.
Oh, I was like, Teresa, don't come for that girl's list. Don't do that, Teresa. Don't do that.
I love what you said, Jackie. Pastors have a high tempo and highs and lows that a normal person or employee doesn't face. So it makes sense for them to have counsel and sabbaticals. They really do. There's no clock in, clock out for so many of them. And then
the thing about them too that people don't think about is the weight they carry of all the people. Like they're carrying so much. They know so much about so many people.
They know so much about so many people.
And so they're carrying all that weight. Just like one of the guys at big church, if I said his name.
If you're going to talk, you got to be way louder.
Alcohol, like all the stress.
You got to be louder if you want to be heard, babe. I can barely see you. I can barely hear you.
What am I trying to say?
I don't know.
Tell them what I'm saying. Get my mouthpiece. But it just
so there's this guy at church that.
So it just never shuts off. That's what's the hard part about it. I believe. It's just that's with ministry. It's just hard. It just never shuts off. You carry the weight of everybody. I say everybody, but it's a lot of people because you know more. You know a lot about a lot of things that people are going through. So you carry so much, so it's hard to shut it off. And when you don't have the parameters, the system set up correctly to get away and to be able to stay accountable and to renew. Like, I mean, I've known guys that great pastors, churches growing like crazy, and with all the pressure, like alcohol or different things that come into play just because of so much.
Mm-hmm.
Which part of that becomes ego because you really don't own it all, but it depends on your personality. Some people can disconnect from that real easy, and some people just carry it all. It's kind of like what Stacey as a counselor, it's hard to separate that sometimes, and so, but especially for some guys, it's just really hard. But there's a lot, and it is. It's 24/7. So anyway, yeah. So step that way while he's doing this thing on my work. Until he's done.
Nope.
Love you.
All right. Happy anniversary, Teresa.
Yeah, happy anniversary, Teresa. I want to
Awesome.
read this really quick. Before we hop off,
Yes.
we were talking about, we were talking about David, about how his devotion outweighed his sin, and this is Romans 8. Okay, the popular verse, Romans 8:38. And I am convinced, this is an NLT, and I am convinced that nothing can ever separate us from God's love, neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither our fears for today nor our worries about tomorrow. Not even the powers of hell can separate us from God's love. No power in the sky above or in the earth below. Indeed, nothing in all creation will ever be able to separate us from the love of God that is revealed in Christ Jesus our Lord. So remember that. Whenever you go on your line tour like David did, that can't separate you from the love of God. You out here and you did something you're not supposed to do, it cannot separate you.
So good. So good. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Miss Mary.
Yeah, thank
yet
you.
Again, for making our Mondays the best Mondays ever. And for Roxy, shh, get down. No. For knowing we needed that final word. I said no, and this dog came right up next to me and barked. There can't be two of us. Truly, nothing can separate us from the love of God. Thank you, Miss Mary, for being here, for making our Mondays so amazing, starting our weeks off amazing as always. Thank you for just your commitment to the word. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for giving, and thank you for that scripture. You guys, remember that. Tuck that in tight. Nothing can separate us from the love of God.
Yeah, of course.
Amen.
Thank you, Stacey.
Yes, we'll see you guys at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Continue to be a great week in the Word. And Jackie said, thank you for that reminder and promise in His Word.
Oh.
Amen.
Amen.
All right. You guys have a great Monday.
All right. Bye.
Bye.